Sorry for some technical error. Actually, the streaming have started, but because of technical issue, that friend just called me say that he didn't see my live stream, so I have to repeat my live stream and after corrected the technical error. My sincere apology for friend actually is waiting at the side, holding their handphone or whatever form or in front of computer waiting for my travelogues on this Lake Baikal. My apology, and again, good evening, fellow friends, photographers, and also travelers. Now this is my Lake Baikal, Russia, part 2. And what you are listening now, the music, that is actually the song on Lake Baikal written by a singer, Li Jian from China. So I will move on to the propers. Right? Now, Lake Baikal, Russia, I have given a title of actually In Search of Blue Crystal Eyes. And because of the uniqueness, I will share with you, and let's move on because some time have been wasted because of technical error on my part. My apologies. Now, in this part 2 of the Lake Baikal, will be mainly cover the landscapes, right? And so you will expect to see some very beautiful landscapes around the Lake Baikal. So you can see from the picture, actually our trip was actually on the 1st of March 2019, and it's still in the winter month in Russia, in this part of Russia, and it's considered it's quite close to the end of winter, but we were advised we have to go not later than 1st of March because our journey, our stay in Lake Baikal will last about a week. So therefore that we were advised that we have to visit Lake Baikal by early March the latest. Now as far as the location of the Lake Baikal, then you look at the map I've shown you, that actually right above north of Malaysia, and as far concerned is up north and then the border to Mongolia. And as far as the Lake Baikal is concerned, we are staying at the spot B, and B actually is the largest island of Lake Baikal, Okhon's Islands. And I need to actually share with you on the preparation for the travel to Lake Baikal, because I think for most Malaysians, you hardly have a chance, or even you experience the winter, it may be just only normal winter whereby anything that's just slightly below freezing point. But when you go to Siberia, Russia, the cold temperature can reach even minus 30 or minus 50 Celsius. It's extremely cold. Now, first and foremost, to visit to Lake Russia, you definitely need a Russian visa. Applying a Russian visa is actually, you need to follow very closely to the guideline given. And again, you can't just apply like that. You need to have an invitation letter, or they call them voucher. This invitation letter or voucher are normally issued by a travel agency in Russia. And then with this, then only you do online applications. After you make an online application, submit your form, online submissions, then you have to print out in a hard copy and then go to the nearest embassy, Russian embassy, to process your visa. And the visa that granted by the Russian authority is only limited to the day you decided to land and the day you decide to leave Russia. It's not given, say, 30 days, you valid for 3 months, any time from these 3 months you go there, and then when the day landed, you just start counting the 30 days. No, not exactly the same. It's giving you exactly, you say you want to go to Lake Baikal on 1st of March, like our case. If you want to leave Russia on 17th of March, it will give you on the 1st till 17th of March. No more, no less. So it's advisable that you have to extend your visa applications, right, by a day or two, just in case if any journey during a journey some delay, at least you are not overstaying in Russia. Now, winter clothing is very, very important, and therefore you must learn how to wear in layer. And please bear in mind that even though for the first half an hour you put up your winter clothing, you stand in outdoor, you find okay. But under a strong wind conditions, that the next half an hour and the next half an hour and go on is not the same. Even the clothing sometimes cannot protect you for long. That's why it's not advisable to be outside in open air, in a windy condition, in extreme cold temperature. That even whatever the winter clothing that you put on is it may not be able to last that long, because it still have heat loss from your surface of your clothing. Now and travel and walking in Lake Baikal, you definitely need to make sure that your shoes are provided with a sort clamson, a type of spike that you can mount on, whereby you then allow you to walk on the ice surface, because it's very, very slippery. And the other thing is actually for photographer, that because when you are going to take photo, you bear in mind that if you put on the thick hand glove, you can't even feel where the shutter button is, and therefore it's very extremely difficult for photographer to take pictures, and therefore most of the time you force to take your hand out from the hand glove, and that is not a good idea, because under extreme temperature you may have problems. So therefore, in this case, it's advisable to put into two layers, a single thin layer of wool hand glove, then after that another big hand glove, but this big outer layer of hand glove that have no finger one. So that is strictly a flat one, cover the fourth finger, that your foremost finger can go right in, right? So using that hand glove, so that whenever you take picture, when you move your hand out, you still have another glove on your hand. That's how you protect your hand, all right, when taking picture. So bear in mind that know how to protect yourself from the extreme weather is very important when you go to this part of the world. Now, it's not, I wouldn't think you can find any currency exchange in Malaysia, or I'm not sure the other country. If you come from other country, follow my YouTube. That you literally have to bring sufficient currency that can allow you to exchange for Russian dollars. That is basically they only accept the currency that is USD as well as the Euro, right? So therefore, you bring these two types of currency when you go to Russia, and you change your money to Russian currency right in the airport or you're on the big city. And in most hotels of the big city, they have an ATM machine that allow you to change using these two currency to Russian currency. So this is something you can do. And always make sure when you travel, you have your travel insurance in place. It's for your own safety. Now, why I choose Lake Baikal during this winter time? It's for very simple reason that for Malaysian, whole year round you are summer, and therefore we want to experience the differences, climates and weather, and also because of the one YouTube video that I saw, I have actually shared a lot of info pertaining to the uniqueness of Lake Baikal, and therefore that's where tell me to arrange a private tour to Lake Baikal during the winter month. Now, the winter duration in Lake Baikal, or even in Siberia of Russia, most part of Russia, whereby actually it started from the month of October till April. Even during the month of October and April, these 2 months, the weather are already approaching close to 0 degree freezing point. And when November onward to March, actually the weather, the temperature most of the time is actually below 0 point, 0 freezing point, and it can even go to the extent of -30. Again, you have to bear in mind that actually the temperature, although is -10, but when in the chilling, windy condition, depend on the speed. I mean the speed. of the wind or wind. Therefore, the stronger the wind blow, that actually the lower the temperature is. That's why when you look at the forecast, they have so-called feel light temperature. This is the temperature that actually you're going to feel when there's a windy condition. The temperature can drop further, maybe around 5 or 10 degrees Celsius. That can be quite serious. If you're not prepared your clothing sufficient enough, you may not able to take this big drastic drop in the temperature because of the windy condition. Now, so the other thing is that Lake Baikal is you saw some of those video in YouTube. You found that the vehicle are running on top of it. It's not the whole duration of the winter month you can travel, because the early months of winter itself, it takes time for the ice in the lake surface to be frozen and the ice to be achieved a sufficient thickness to allow take the load of the vehicle to be travel on top of it. And therefore, most of the time that when the vehicle start travel on the lake, frozen lake, is during the month of January and February. And March, the early March actually is a very, very rare cases, but we are the one who actually attempted to catch these trips, in early March, because I'm trying to avoid the extreme temperature. Now, the other thing you have to take note is that the most attracting me item is the crystal eye, the blue crystal eye. And therefore, this is where you can really see this when you travel to Lake Baikal. I will show you some of the photo of this crystal eye in Lake Baikal later on. Now, you need to get about some idea, historical background, and also some geographical facts about Lake Baikal. Now, Lake Baikal has been regarded as the pearl of the Siberia, and it's formed by an ancient rift valley. It's a rift lake located in the southern part of eastern Siberia, not far from the border of Mongolia, right? And Lake Baikal is not only the largest freshwater lake by volume in the world, but Lake Baikal also contains about 23% of the total freshwater reserve in the world. And also it's the deepest lake in the world, which have a maximum depth of 1642 meters. And the age of the Lake Baikal are estimated to be around between 20 to 30 million years, and therefore it can consider one of the oldest lakes, oldest lake in the world. Now, this lake also been classified as the clearest lake in the world by virtue of the presence of the organisms, a plant and some insect-like organism that live in the waters, which I have already shared during my first episodes. If you want to get to know more about that and you have not visited my first episode, please do so. It will tell you why the water is so clear and clean in Lake Baikal, and the local actually literally will just drink the water from the lakes. Now, of course, our place of stay in Lake Baikal will be on the largest island in the Lake Baikal, and actually, on this village, this Kuza village is the most populated village in this largest island of Lake Baikal. Please pardon me because to spell Russian names is quite difficult. And if I do spell wrongly or pronounce wrongly, please pardon me. Now let's go to this Kuza village. It's a tourist administrative center, and Okhon's Island is the largest island among other smaller islands in Lake Baikal. And being the largest island, the tourist administrative center is located in Kuza village of these islands, right? Kuza village being the most populated village, and therefore it become also a tourist spot, and also partly because of the Lake Baikal being proclaimed as the UNESCO Natural Heritage Site in 1994. Actually, I'm not sure about the exact year, but because of the proclamation of UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site that attracted a lot of visitors. And the north and western end of the village are fronting the Saraski Bays, right? They call this waterfront in front, they call it a Saraski Bays, with a sandy beach. Actually, this sandy beach actually stretched about 1 km inland. And during summer, this beach is actually, of course, is where people having their water sport. But during winter time, then this basically is also a place for the boat to harbor. And just next to this village is a famous Samanka Rocks, a place where they also call Cape of Baikal. It's just next to it, and it's actually the best spot for viewing sunset. I will share with you some of my sunset shots taken at this spot later on. Now, what to expect in Okhon Islands? Now, I was told that because the Russian government want to preserve this place to avoid contaminations, that therefore they had done quite a lot of restrictions in terms of the development in this island for certain reasons. I'll share with you as we go along. Now, most tourists who want to visit Lake Baikal will come to Okhon Islands, and during winter it's because they want to experience the frozen lakes and surrounding. But there are also people come to Lake Baikal during summer. In fact, I was told that actually more visitors during summer because most people are afraid of winter, the winter cold. Now, on the Bokhan's Cape, the Cape of Bokhan, this basically is actually a religious place. The house a sacred place with you have found some such pillar, and I think it's about 13 or 14 number of them, and they have been wrapped around with colorful ribbons, and quite similar to Tibetan culture. And the local in this Lake Baikal regions are mainly Bayat people. The Bayat people are basically people coming from Republic of Buryatia. Actually, it's just an estate in Russia, and therefore is this Republic of Buryatia, TIA, Buryatia, right? I call it Buryatia, is actually at the southern region of the Lake Baikal. Therefore, you can find out a lot of Bayat people, and Bayat people are actually of Mongolic origin. That means it's actually because it's the border to Mongolia, so it's quite natural to expect that actually you can find Mongolic origin in this place. And this island is being kept prevent from overdeveloped, and therefore you don't expect to have a lot of shopping mall or hypermarket of that thing in this small village, although it's most populated. Of course, you still can find a reasonable market, actually sundry markets, quite sizable, you know, but for the tourists to buy the daily food and everything. But then it's not like those hypermarket you can find anywhere in our country or any other country in the world. And one unique thing is that that's where I want to share with you that they seem to be, in order to preserve the environment, the whole island have no laterite or asphalt road. I mean, we call in Malaysia we call them the premix roads, right? Asphalt roads. No, they all are earth roads or laterite roads itself, and there's no street lighting. So if you want to travel around, roaming around at night, you make sure you carry along with a torchlight, because it's completely pitch dark, you know, other than those lights that come from the house or drilling around when the small houses around you. And telecommunication channels, I mean the comic signal is also not very strong there, unless you are staying near the transmission tower, right? And therefore, remember that if you go for a tour, forget about telephone, forget about communicating with the outside world, only in case of emergency, right? don't worry, it's quite safe to travel in Russia and also in Lake Baikal. Okay, now let's go on the picture proper. What you see in this picture is literally actually is the so-called the village, Kuzer village that we're staying in. And you can see that actually most of them are actually wooden house. And hardly they have it's 3-story high. Most of them are only 2-story high. And you found that you can see that have you see the road there? It's all laterite roads. Those poles are electrical poles, but they do not install any street light. Now this is another street scene where we are traveling around this village itself. You can see that this is exactly how it look like in this populated, so-called most populated village. This is another scene, and people there actually, I think during summer they actually husbandry. That means it's rare sheep, cow, or of that thing. But then in winter, I think they literally had to change the profession because of the tourism influx to this part of island. Most of the people there actually, half of them I think so, easily are fishermen. So these fishermen will then turn into a tourist agent. They own Russian van, Russian van, and pick tourists around, touring around the Lake Baikal and surrounding the islands. So this is what their occupation during winter, because winter month in Lake Baikal is take half a year. Now this is another views of this village, view from the top of the village. There's the cave I mentioned to you, Bakhan's cave. And you can see the far end there is actually the lake, the frozen lake, and you can see that actually this is actually the beach I mentioned just now. And this sandy beach is stretched about 1 km inland. Now during the winter month, actually if you want to go to Lake Baikal, actually you had to find any spot around the island, as long as it's a gender gradient that will allow you to drive into the lake itself. And the far end that actually is our entry point to the Lake Baikal, the frozen lakes, when we arrive in Lake Baikal, and it's actually on our second day, the first day of our exploration of Lake Baikal. Now this is another scene taken during a daytime where you can see the Samanka, the rocks, the famous rocks itself, and next to it actually is you move up at the top of it is the cave of Bokhan. This we mentioned to you just now is a famous spot for taking photo for sunset. Okay, now is the Cape of Bokhan. We are at the top of it. You found that there's actually it's a sacred place, and actually where religious ceremony are taking place. And a bit of share about the religions in Lake Baikal. Lake Baikal happen to be, they are coexistence of 3 religions. One is this they call Orthodox Catholic, Orthodox Church, Orthodox religions. The other one actually is Russian Buddhism, and third one is Shamanism. Shamanism is actually a local religions. They're both coexisting in this part of the world. Okay, this is actually close to the evening, and you can see that this such pillar beautifully wrapped with color ribbons. And you can see the far end is the beach. And this is where the place people get ready to take the sunset. We went there a bit late. They're really crowded there, because the quite limited spot. Anyway, we decided not to go too near because too many people scattered around. Sometimes may not be a good choice for taking sunset pictures. And this is actually the sunset scene. Quite a beautiful sunset scene, and particularly you see the sun before lost from the horizons, and they found that actually the reflection on the frozen lakes on the far end. This is another view, closer views to see that how exactly the surface of the lake look like. Most of the time, the lakes at the center of the frozen lake are much flat and gentle, but when close to the edge of the shore, close to the shore, they found that actually the ice was being pushed, due to expansion and contractions, because the temperature at daytime and nighttime are quite a big difference, and therefore the temperature difference are one of the cause of the expansion and contraction of this ice, the frozen ice, and therefore the movement has caused the ice to move forward inland toward the land area, and therefore when they reach the land surface they crash against it, so therefore most of the ice surface were cracking up. You find that a lot of cracked ice nearer to the shore than at the center of the lakes. Yeah, this is another sunset scene from the Okon Islands, right? And you're all seeing the Saraski Bays, right? The beautiful sunset scene. And we then move down near to the shore, the lake level, and therefore to take this picture, you can see that exactly that when the beautiful reflections of the sun rays from the frozen lakes, which is so flat and act like a mirror. Now, when we travel around, because when you visit Lake Baikal, it's not only just you travel roaming around on the frozen lakes, but also you're also roaming around on the island. So while we are moving from northern part of the island to the southern part of the islands, we came across to this place where we will put a stop there to take some scene, because this was claimed to be one of the also is a so-called viewpoint, beautiful viewpoint to look at the Lake Baikal, the frozen Lake Baikal. And we found that these are timbers object that was, and also some of them are rocks being piled up, stacked on this part of the islands. And I believe that this probably have to do with this shamanism, one of the religion the local people who believe in. And of course quite fascinating to look at this. Then this another view of that, right? You found that as this is around this area you expect to see a lot of this scene. This another one. Now we look at on the right is exactly the frozen lake of Lake Baikal, and the white colors deposit actually is the snow, because the temperature is so cold that actually there's no chance for the snow to melt, right? And therefore the ice surface is so hard and so smooth that the snow also will not cling on it. So when the winds blow, the snow will move until they stop near to the edge of the shore. You can see that, so most of the snow are closer to the shore. While you look at near to the center part of the lake, you found that it's very little white spot or very little snow. This is how the phenomena look like due to nature. This is another scene from the same spot at another angle. And you see that there's some line on the lake surface. This actually is a track where the car moving, the vans, the army van, the so-called retired army van, the passenger ferrying the tourists or even the resident, they are actually using the whole lake surface as a highway, a super wide highway. This is another scene, right? So you can see that actually the Lake Baikal, when it's totally frozen during the winter, not a single inch of the lake surface is unfrozen, very uniquely. And as we move south, this is a southern tip. When we move to the southern part of the Auckland Islands, you found that this part is very bare. You didn't find any tree or vegetations except these are rocks, some colorful rocks. And from the far end, little bit of whitish area is all these are all the frozen lakes. And this southern part of the Lake Baikal are the closest to the mainland of Russia, Siberia. This is also the place where our vehicle passed through on the day one when we travel from Irkutsk by land. Took us about 6 to 7 hours before we cross over this little short stretch of the lake surface. Then we landed on the island and then moved further to the central part of the Auckland Islands, where the village where we are putting the night. So at this place, southern part of the Auckland Islands, then you find that actually completely quite bare and it is deserted in that sense. Now this is another scene. So that I have to say that it's not easy to find many trees around on the Auckland Islands, except the place where we stay, where near the beach there, you can find quite a fair bit of trees. Okay, this is another picture showing at another angle near to these southern tips of Auckland Islands. Now, as I said earlier, you literally can, everywhere is a road because there's no design or paved road, and therefore as long as the car can move, can run on it, is a road, freeway. Therefore during winter time that itself, they will find the few spot, you'll find quite a number of spot that is very gentle for the vehicle to go in and go out, and that's where they'll bring the visitor to the lake surface to explore the all tiny islands that surface from the lakes. While we are on the army van, the retired army vans, that actually are the most popular form of transporting vehicle in Lake Baikal. I took this picture. I saw a man with his dog having a morning walk. And in this part of it, you can see the terrains that is quite sharp. It's like cliff at the edge of it. So therefore, of course, it's not possible for the vehicle to land or to live. Right here. Now, while we are driving on the sitting in the army van, the retired army van, Russian van, this is the scene that you will experience in Lake Baikal. You see those crack lines that develop on the lake surface. Do not need to worry too much because the lake layer, the ice layer is very thick, and I was told that it's easily a meter in thickness. Even though there's a crack line developed, but they're well interlocking one another, it can't sink. But literally, ice are floating on the water. As long as the broken ice are well packed together, it's very safe to walk on it. Now this is another scene whereby we are closing to one of the small islands. These are the islands, but this island actually is inhabitants, no people staying there. It's just a bare, small, tiny islands. But during the summertime, when the ice lake is filled with water, it's water and not in a frozen form, that you hardly can access to these small islands freely. It only way is by boats. But during the winter time, you can access to it. Again, don't underestimate this lake, the size of the lakes. I was told the size of the area, the lake area, surface area of the lakes is as large as Taiwan, right? Or something quite close to the land area in peninsular Malaysia. That's where we are, right? So you can see that, imagine this lake is considered quite a big lake. No wonder it can contain close to 23% of the fresh water storage for the whole world. Now this is another scene. This scene will show you that the cracks that surface develop and on the lake surface. and the far end is all these Russian van, retired Russian army vans. And tend to share with you on my fear initially when I landed, when I was on this vehicle, and this vehicle moving on the frozen ice. In my experience, actually ice is so slippery, and when you are driving a car on this ice, well, the car skid, and the driver is driving pretty fast. That is actually my initial worry, and but finally I was told that I don't worry. The tire of this car or these vans are specially made to travel on ice, and during the stopover for lunch at time, I have a closer look at the tire. I realized that actually the implants are metal stuck onto the tire surface. This how it's just like we put a spike, on beneath our shoe so that you can walk. No wonder you can have a firm grip on the slippery ice surface. So it's very safe, after having our driver demo their skill by turning 360 degrees on ice. It's quite an exciting moment when he spin around the vehicle on ice. Right, this is actually the vehicle that we are right on. Actually, all the vehicles that the tourists riding on this Lake Baikal during this season are actually all on this retired army van. But it's a very, very lasting one. They can. I think it's 4-wheel drive, if I'm not wrong. It can run on land perfectly in any terrain, and also can run on ice surface. Okay, this is the interesting part of the natural beauty of Lake Baikal. Again, this is one of the tiny islands, and you can see that the ice and as well the frozen ice that cling on to the cliff of these little tiny islands. And you can see the color of the ice, so pure in color, pure white in color, clean, beautiful. Another scene, right? It tend to give you a feeling that it's not only just a whitish in color, but also you can see the bluish color on the frozen lake surface. So the blue color reflected by the sun, they give you also the feeling that the ice also a bit bluish in color. Another scene, actually we like to spend a lot of time here, but then of course I think as I said, the Lake Baikal is so big and there's so many beautiful tiny islands, so we had to move around. So every spot that we stop over, we are probably given about half an hour and most to an hour, but for a photographer definitely may not find enough time, because every corner is a picturesque corner for photographer. This is another beautiful scenes. I can see the icicle that clinging at the cliff on the top of this that's overhang cliff of the tiny islands. This is a closer view. This is also the beautiful icicle. When I go close to the tiny island, I look up, and you can find it that they are all hang there. So sometimes can be quite dangerous that if any of these icicle were to drop, it can actually hurt. It can hurt people or kill people. And then some of these tiny islands, they have some cave, but these caves are inaccessible during the summertime. But during winter, it's literally with the frozen ice, you can walk into the cave, and on the ceiling, on the eave or soffit of the cave, you found that they're actually full of icicle just hanging there. This is caused by because it's the water is from the top of the a tiny island will seep through and then will penetrate down, and then from there they start dripping drop by drop, But then during the winter, they're all frozen to form icicle. This is another pictures of all these icicles overhang from the cantilever part of the cliff of the tiny islands. This is a bit unique, quite different from just now the icicle. And at the lower portion of it itself, we found that maybe due to the water level of the lakes change, so they found that there's a crack between these frozen ice, right? But I just like the natural look of it. It's so beautiful. But we did not walk near because we realized that quite close to this part, when you go near this area, the surface seemed to be wet, and we were told that any surface that is wet, that probably the ice layer is not that thick, so we had to be more cautious on that. So we try to avoid, and also we don't want to get our shoe wet, because if you get your shoe wet and your shoe is not waterproof, be careful, because you have a very serious problem to your legs. And then you find frogs bite, then you'll be in trouble. This is another scene, and this part of the lake, you found that the lake surface is very, very rough. The frozen lake surface is very rough and very good to walk. It's very slippery at the same time, because the unevenness itself, you have to make sure your balance. If not, I think that you can easily get yourself flattened on the lake surface. You can get injured, because when you hit your head against any of this hardened frozen ice, actually is quite hurt. And this is a special spot that been purposely arranged to take our sunrise shot. You can see this small tiny island. It gives you an impression, look like it's a sail. It's emerging from the lake surface, and we are actually there in the early morning, and we are literally spent about an hour there under the freezing cold weathers, and just try to catch the sunrise picture of this island, small tiny island, unique in shape. And actually, I'm not aware that actually I thought that we're going to have a lunch in the restaurants inside in the island, on the island. But then suddenly about lunchtime, then we found that our driver stopped here and stopped near the lake at the side and asked us to roam around. And I started realizing actually the 2 days, when we are 2 days in Lake Baikal, a full day tour, actually we are going to have our lunch on the Lake Baikal. And our meal will be actually fish soup with bread. And as far as concerned, our chef is actually the driver. He carried literally everything at the back of the car. The firewood, all the cooking utensils, the fish, the bread, anything that you needed for the meal, he carried along at the back of the vehicle, right? So when we roaming around on the lake, he start prepare our lunch. Of course, like it or don't like it, this is your lunch. So of course, we also feel hungry, because we have been constantly moving about non-stop. So after that, we found that actually it's high time to come back. And when we come back, we look at it, see how we cook. We are trying to see how our chef, a driver come chef, cooking our meal. And even have a portable small little table there. In this instance, he used it to shade away the strong wind, to stop it from affecting the fires from burning. And we sometimes realize that if you eat, you need a table. Don't worry, in Lake Baikal, you can make your own table, ice table. Stack the few pieces of ice on one another, you get a tea table. This is how it look like. And this is some of the art, the natural art created by God. And you can see that basically these are all the crack line, and with some white spot mushroom-like item. This actually is a gas, methane gas trapped in the ice, because before you have a chance to escape from the water surface, the water being frozen. This another image. This is more dense and more collected at one spot. This another one. You see, all those lines are all cracked. There are so many cracked lines that you can, but then you still can see through. In certain part of the lake, you can really see through the ice layer, even it's 1 meter thick. You can see through, even you can see any living thing, a fish, if you were to swim under the ice surface. This is a spot that we found the most clear and the most beautiful spot, and we literally have a fun here. So you can see that this empty wine bottle was just play on top of the ice surface. It looked like it's floating on the waters. And you can see the white spot basically is the snow deposit, because the surface is not perfect flat, so there's a slight depression. So this is where they collect the ice, the snow deposit, and trap in this small little recession on the surface of the ice. And I'm doing some demo. My tour guide was dig a small hole on this ice surface, just make it look like a cup, a small cup, tiny cup. Then he poured this wine into this and asked me to sip. So I'm having a nice sip of the wine, and then at the same time also taste the ice to see whether is it very, very clean. It's not bad, quite nice to taste. And then there were actions. Everybody was trying to have the fun time on the snow surface, on the ice surface, sorry. And this is some of the posts. The model I bring along and my travel mates, are posing on this flat, beautiful ice surface. This is where the blue crystal ice. If you can see that when the expansion and contraction forcing the ice layer to crash against one another, and then the upthrust it and then become broken and move outwards and emerge from the surface. This is how it looked like. But be very careful not to go close, because if it's just formed a day or just overnight, then it will be expected between the broken piece of ice itself. Actually, there's gap there. Actually, then the gap there actually is not covered with frozen ice. So therefore, if you will slip and fall into the gaps, you will actually fall into the lake and you will get killed. Nobody can rescue you, because nobody can go down to rescue in this type of situation. So we've been advised not to go too near and try to explore too much on this type of ice in this type of conditions. This is another scene. You can look the whitish of this broken ice that on the surface of this huge lake surface. And this here is give you a much bluish looks, and again is fairly slippery to be able to walk on it. And a lot of people, not only the local, the Russian, they really enjoy the winter sport. But also I noticed that a lot of, while we are traveling around, roaming around the lake surface, around this islands itself, you find that there are just people, there's just in this picture, there's a man, he's skating, and then yet he's pulling a cart. This cart and right another man. I'm not sure he is a tourist here or he's just actually a villager here or not. But then we found quite a number of these people around while we are in Lake Baikal during our visit. Now this is another scene. I'm not sure whether it's, it looked like more like a local, than a tourist. And also you have vehicles that actually moving about, like what we did. And therefore, when they find a good spot, they just stop over and just get down, and just take pictures. And behind of it is actually the Siberia, the northern part of the Lake Baikal. And you can see that the terrain is very, very steep. And in fact, at this part of the Lake Baikal, because the reef village there, valley, therefore, we found that actually the terrain is quite undulating and quite high. And therefore, access to Lake Baikal only had to be selected on certain spot where the gradient are more gentle. And almost close to the end, and this is again one of close to evening shot, late afternoon, and while we are also driving on the lakes on the car in the vans. In the van, you found out again these two men each carry a cart, and I believe the cart they place the luggage inside. I'm more thinking this the local tourists. And this is another scene of the same spot, but this is where after the sun had surfaced from the horizons, and you can see that at the close close by is all the actual rock surface and the ice surface, so rocky in look. And I like this picture very much because of the the reflections of the sun rays right in front of my cameras, and also the Russian vents at the background as a backdrop. And this is another scene of the sunrise scene taken at Lake Baikal. And this also another one, but this one is near to the village that we are staying, and you can see how rough the surface is. In fact, it takes quite a hard time to walk past this zone. And just to share with you, one of our travel mate was actually escaped from tragedy. Actually, I think while walking past this place, and I think he stepped on a very thin layer of ice, and he was one leg fell into the waters, and he managed to get out fast enough, so that then when he realized himself, he already above on the ice, and he showed us that half of his pant is wet, and therefore we advised him to go back to the hotel nearby. So quickly you get his chin. But of course, because it's very windy and it's very cold, and during our travel, actually we are lucky because we travel in the month of March. The coldest that we experienced, I think, is only -20. If I think the most is during a night whereby we were taking our sunset, but it's very windy. And actually, even to take a finger out from the glove itself, it lasts maybe just only 8 to 10 seconds. You feel that your hand is something, feel numb, and you have to quickly put your hand back into a glove or put into your pockets. So therefore, be careful that under extreme temperature, that actually exposure of your bodies to this type of condition actually can get frostbite, and actually it can endanger yourself for nothing. Okay, so this is about all for this episode. I'm sorry for the technical errors in the early hours of today at 9 o'clock. And fortunately, a friend of mine called up and tell me that they can't see my live streaming. I have then had to replay my live streaming, but relate by about 20 minutes. My apologies, and hope that I'll correct this, because still in a learning process, trying to do my best live streamings with little bit with as little technical hitch-up and problems faced. Try to overcome it in the learning path. It's a learning path. And I thank you again with me again for this episode number 2. Just to share with you that on the episode number 3 in Russia we cover Moscow, and episode number 4 and 5 will be cover St. Petersburg. And I hope that you enjoy it, and just remember that next coming Saturday will be the episode 3, same time. I hope that I don't make the same mistake again in today on the streaming, and my sincere apology again for friends that have been waited and feel disappointed, maybe didn't see I stream this live streaming. It's a technical errors. And again, goodbye and good night to you, and stay strong, stay at home. The COVID pandemic, 19 pandemic is still not over yet. We still have to stay home as much as we can. social distancing, put on a mask whenever we go out, and I hope everybody well and safe, and see you again in the coming Saturday at 9 p.m. I'll have to make sure no mistake on my part. And thank you very much. Alright? Okay, that's the end of the day. Thank you and bye.